Well, hello there.
Hello.
I'm not done with my Beretta update video, so you get another rifle video.
Okay.
I've received a lot of questions, and some of the rifle builders out there are guys who shoot like I do, with the same preferences as I do. We're wondering what my criteria is for barrel selection. Now, I know I'm not a cool kid mag dumping into trash, but I'm also not a one shot per minute guy like some boomer FUD range officer. I like to use and have a barrel with a certain set of features. Let's take a look at a few, then look at the features that makes them what they are and why they're special to me and do exactly what I ask them to do. Then I'll take you through on the back end finishes, barrel coatings, and barrel quality. Hopefully without putting you to sleep or wasting your time with my boring ass. Now on the onset, I prefer rifles that do two jobs. I like fighting rifles or precision fighting rifles. Now I know the second one's gonna kind of be in conflict with some people's perceptions of what a precision gun is or a fighting rifle is. A fighting precision gun is something you can shoot with a high degree of precision and accuracy, but should a circumstance present itself, you could do some 5 or 6 shot strings very rapidly without damaging the barrel or causing any long-term degradation in performance. As well as a barrel that doesn't heat string quickly, get heat soaked, and start creating a massive mirage impacting my ability to see what I'm shooting at. Rifles I like. We have the HK and LMT. These are both very heavy profile barrels. Chrome lined barrel, and this is a cold hammer forged unlined barrel. This gives me that precision fighting setup that I want, and this is just fighting rifle. Barrels are nice and thick.
Damn, boy, he's thick! Boy, that's a thick-ass boy!
The barrels can get really hot and still keep pushing, still give me good accuracy, and do everything that I need it to do in my environment with the demands that I place on them.
Casey Jones was the son of a bitch.
Casey Jones was the son of a bitch.
Drove his train in a 30-foot ditch.
Drove his train in a 30-foot ditch.
All right, we also have the URGI here and the Geisley to represent a government profile barrel, which I prefer for regular fighting rifle use or suppressor use, because the front of the barrel that's going to get the back pressure and heat is thicker and set up to deal with that. There's also the Geisley profile barrel, which has a progressive taper, but it's still thick enough to do the same things, gives you a little weight reduction, ease of maneuverability, but it's still good for suppressor use. Or if you still wanted something that was cold hammer forged and chrome lined, you have very solid precision with the Geisley barrels while maintaining the cold hammer forged and chrome lined features. Both of these barrels are cold hammer forged and chrome lined.
Okay.
Now we have two other profiles. The top is an H bar, so it's a constant thickness as you go through the barrel. It'll get thicker in certain portions close to the barrel nut, but it's a straight profile, otherwise known as an H bar. And then we have a Ballistic Advantage Hansen, which is thinner than the Geisley profile, but it's also a constant taper. But it does get pretty thin in certain parts. Not quite pencil barrel length, but it's akin to a Knight's Armament AR15, the 14.5 inch or 16 inch. That's not to compare a Knight's to a Ballistic Advantage. A Knight's barrel is clearly superior. They have some voodoo magic that they do. But it's just indicative and representative of that barrel profile. Thick where it needs to be and thin where it isn't. Criterion also does that with their Core series, but it gets down to a .625 gas block journal, which I'm still not comfortable with. But a lot of guys like those. Barrel profiles such as these or the Knights tend to weigh less and they're easier to maneuver with. A lot of guys like them. That's not to include the CQB or the SR16s, though. Those are government profile, just for everybody's SA. And then you have pencil barrels, which I don't like. I don't like enhanced lightweight, and I don't like pencil barrels. They get too thin for me and they heat string very quickly. I don't care who makes them, and I know some dudes that I respect really like them. I just don't, I can't run them. They're not for me. So the way I'm going to tackle this video is going to be finishes and barrel lining, type of forging or rifling, and the grades of metal for a barrel. Before we start, what kills a barrel is throat erosion, heat, and gas port erosion. So if you're running suppressed, full auto, or just constantly mag dumping into trash, that's really gonna burn the barrel out at both ends. So right where the explosion takes place and right where the hot gases are sent back to operate the system. And if you have a suppressor, it's gonna be redirected off the first baffle back into the gun, unless you have a flow-through suppressor. You can also murder your barrel with bimetal bullets and just destroy the rifling. That's also possible. The way you combat that is with the use of barrel coatings, which will extend the life of your barrel. So that's why the barrel coatings are a factor in barrel selection. So here are your type of finishes. You have an unlined barrel, just like this HK, where it's just bare steel. You're relying on the metallurgical composition and cleaning schedule to protect your barrel life. This HK MR556 is a unique rifle because the grade of the steel and how it's made, it's still cold hammer forged cannon grade steel, but it's unlined. So it still has the strength, rigidity, accuracy, and the barrel diameter is very thick. It's a very heavy profile barrel, just a chunk. The barrel itself is very rigid, very strong, and very durable. But the MR series and all of your stainless steel barrels, more often than not, are unlined barrels, which gives you excellent accuracy and precision capabilities. This gun in my hands has been able to churn out 0.75 to 0.77 MOA at any given day with 77 grain TMK Black Hills or Mark 262, just a phenomenal shooter. And I can get on the gas and get it pretty warm without wearing the barrel out. The only disadvantage is barrels like this, the HK barrel specifically, you have to do a copper solvent treatment about every 5,000 rounds to maintain the barrel so it doesn't start opening up. Once you do the copper solvent treatment, it kind of resets the barrel. These barrels are known in the right hands, which of course precludes putting this on a full auto lower, but in proper hands with the HK shooting team, Jesse at HK, there's a few other guys that have run these in excess of 20,000 rounds without any severe degradation in accuracy, which is excellent. Through 20,000 rounds, some guys are at 25,000, and I believe there's one at 30,000. But again, that's not mag dumping into trash, that's using it as a precision gun that you sometimes get on like you would in a competition or something like that. So you can do 5-6 shot strings, but just mag dump after mag dump after mag dump will kill the barrel because it's heat.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
Nitride barrels. Nitride does not add coating. It changes surface properties by diffusing nitrogen and carbon into the metal surface to yield an extremely smooth, uniform, and wear-resistant bore. I used to think nitride was a coating that was applied, however it's a process very similar to QPQ, which we'll get into in a second, but nitriding the barrel just changes the metallurgical composition and forces certain things into it. Now there are benefits to this, which are it doesn't require over drilling of the gas ports like chrome lining does because that's an added material to the barrel. So you have very precise dimensional control and it's very consistent throughout the barrel, so long as the barrel was made properly. The barrels are also generally pretty accurate. Geisley used to do nitride barrels. I shot a couple of my friends' barrels that were nitrided. Very precise rifles, very accurate. This is a Triarch barrel, which is nitrided then NP3'd. So you'll see an NP3 barrel extension, and this is all nitride. So if you look at the tip of the barrel, I have to send this barrel off, but as you can see with the end of the barrel there, it's all black. If it was chrome lined, then you would have, like this Mark 23, you see that very thin chrome color in the end of the barrel, and that's how you would know it was chrome lined. So this is just a uniform nitride throughout the whole barrel, giving it that nitrided finish.
Okay.
QPQ, which is again very similar to nitriding, but with extra steps. It stands for quench, polish, quench. That's what QPQ is. And it's a nitrocarburizing case hardening that increases corrosion resistance. Still not a coating. I honestly thought it was for the longest time, like slide me the QPQ sauce, you know, something like that. But it's a quenching process. It's still very accurate like nitriding, and it gets close to chrome lining in corrosion resistance and strength, but not quite in terms of hard use. A chrome lined barrel will always outperform it in adverse conditions and overall strength. Now, I know there's an interview with the owner of Sons of Liberty Gun Works. This isn't going after Sons of Liberty Gun Works. He uses Aero Precision barrels, and they are QPQ'd. So he's pushing those barrels. He said he did a lot of testing, but offered no data. It was just talking about it. You know, it started like, well, we did a lot of testing and this happened. And, you know, you really have to quantify what it is, when your barrel's shot out. Is it the throat erosion? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And then didn't offer any data. And I know a lot of guys in arguments, especially Sons of Liberty Gun Work owners, they're gonna reference that video and say, QPQ is just as good. It's not. And I'm, again, not going after Sons of Liberty Gun Works. It's just, while he was talking, he didn't offer any data to show me. There was like, hey, the worst QPQ barrel versus the worst chrome line barrel produced this degradation, right? Or these performance characteristics, and there's a lot of overlap. Just saying it and not showing me anything is just that. Just saying it and not showing me anything. So again, no shade, just don't try to use that as some sort of quantitative data point or qualitative, honestly, but don't try to use it as some sort of data point because no data was presented. It was just a kind of trust me bro kind of conversation. So when I see data and numbers, I'll believe it. But in the meantime, QPQ is not as strong as chrome lining. But that's not to say it won't meet your particular criteria. So even though it's not as good as chrome lining, you can still have one, own one, use one, and it'll be fine. So that's my position on QPQ. I clearly have one with this ballistic advantage, but it's not my preferred coating.
I never get picked for anything.
Saving the best for last, we have the chrome lined barrel. This is the best coating for hard use. Best corrosion resistance, and your best protection against throat erosion and gas port erosion. The few problems that do show up, however, are the inconsistency of the coating based on the manufacturer. If they have bad quality control and or application, then you're gonna have issues with accuracy or bore consistency in general, which you don't want. The gas port is also usually oversized to accommodate for the chrome lining, but again, chrome lining is superior protection. It's just the best hands down for a fighting rifle. And to the guys shadow boxing right now, because I just said that, before you start banging on the keyboard, it's just the way it is. There's a reason it's been industry standard for so long.
Well, Dick, here's the deal. I'm the best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff.
All right, now that we're out of coatings for your barrel, we're gonna jump into how the barrels are made and rifled. So for my research and what I've purchased or is available out there, you have cold hammer forging, button rifling, and cut rifling. Cold hammer forging is where the blank is hammered against the mandrel, transferring the rifling into the barrel, giving it precision control of the rifling and tolerances, the best strength, heat resistance, and accuracy. Pretty much all the things you want. I don't see a reason not to get cold hammer forging. My HK is cold hammer forged, Knight's Armament, this Geisley, pretty much everything I have is cold hammer forged. Not everything, but almost everything. And just because it's cold hammer forged doesn't necessarily mean it has to have a chrome lining or a QPQ or nitride or unlined. You can get a cold hammer forged barrel from a bunch of different manufacturers with different coatings. So just because it's cold hammer forged does not equal it's always chrome lined. Because a Geisley, for instance, also did cold hammer forged nitride. So those combinations and options are out there. But cold hammer forged is going to give you the strongest, best performing barrel. It checks a lot of boxes for hard use. Honestly, it checks all the boxes for hard use because that's the best one you can get. Button rifling. This is a single pass where the button is pushed or pulled at a controlled rate through the bore of the barrel blank. They are considered to be very accurate still, but not as strong as cold hammer forging. I don't have an example, I don't think anyway, of cut rifling. I gotta be honest with you, I don't know if any companies are doing cut barrels for AR-15s. Maybe in the precision world, I don't know. The stainless barrels, I'm not 100% sure. I don't own anything that's stainless other than that HK. But, you know, it is what it is. And now, from there, after we've covered the rifling, you also have steel grades. There's ordnance grade steel, which is 4140 or 4150. And then you have your stainless grades, which are 410, 416, and 416R. Just to name a few. I think that's all of them, but someone in the comments are gonna be like, there's this 2946, it's pretty awesome. Like, I don't know, but there's gonna be some sort of chromoly vanadium mixture in your ordnance grade steel. HK has some chromoly in their steel mixture, and they call it cannon grade, so it's still ordnance grade, but I don't know exactly where their steel mixture falls because it's German proprietary, but most of your barrels are going to be 4140 or 4150 steel. That's the steel you want for a hard use rifle. You also have, for your precision applications, you have 410 stainless, which has 11% chrome content. You have 416, which is easier to work, but it will wear out very quickly. And it's very brittle. And then you have 416R, which is harder than 410, and I think it's a little bit better than 416, which is better, but it's much more expensive. You'll see those with Wilson Combat and a few other manufacturers that make them. They're going to be more expensive to get that increased performance, but if you get a 416 stainless barrel, you better have enough money to buy 5 of them because you're going to be wearing those things out in a couple thousand rounds. And there's a lot of guys out there who shoot those setups that can attest to that, and some of them get kind of butthurt though. They're like, it's so accurate, but I have to replace it at 2,500 rounds. Like, I'd love to shoot a quarter MOA group, but at the same time I need my gun to last. Like, just by the time I get comfortable on it, it's time to get a new barrel and restart the process. Some dudes really love that, more power to you, but that ain't for me.
Nope.
Might be funny.
Gotta be a horse, you don't fuck with tradition.
You're really gonna pump the brakes on a donkey dressed up like a unicorn.
Oh, I'm stomping the brakes. You put that idea right through the fucking windshield.
So for me in my environments, with the kind of shooting that I do and the demands that I put on my rifles, my preference is always going to be cold hammer forged and chrome lined. Almost all manufacturers are going to offer cold hammer forged and chrome lined, and there's going to be, I mean, Sons of Liberty Gunworks does it, and there's a few others that don't. So I know there's going to be guys in the comments like, my favorite manufacturer doesn't offer it because it's not needed. But for all intents and purposes, I think for a quality fighting rifle, you're going to need cold hammer forged and chrome lined to mitigate the circumstances you might find should you want to be a concerned citizen, Minuteman, military law enforcement, so on and so forth. A hard use rifle needs to have the boxes checked for hard use. Can you use a nitride barrel for hard use? Absolutely. My HK is unlined, so it's missing the chrome lining, which is a standard for me, but that's my fighting precision rifle. So that's your Mark 12s, that's the MR556, and a few other setups, the SAMR. So there's definitely options out there for a fighting rifle that don't have chrome lining. Don't take that as some sort of slight.
Fuck you, buddy!
That's just what I've found to work for me, and I still get very precise guns with chrome lining and cold hammer forging. The Geissele 14.5 Super Duty, I just took that out to zero it for 75 grain because I'm getting rid of the 62 grain because it's impossible to source. So I'm using 75 grain tap or 77 grain TMK. And these are the results. I zeroed it hyper fast and super accurate. And that's a chrome lined cold hammer forged barrel. This URGI, same thing, hyper accurate, chrome lined, cold hammer forged, and it's a government profile, which if you listen to the internet's awful. I also forgot to mention a certain barrel profile because I don't have one right now, but the SOCOM profile barrel in the Block 2, which is a phenomenal barrel as well, has excellent harmonics and all sorts of other stuff. And that's really what you want. I kind of missed this in the beginning, but I prefer barrels that are thicker because they always have better harmonics and I always get superior accuracy. The thinner you get on a barrel, the more repeatable accuracy and precision that you give up. So it may be inherently accurate, but the second it starts getting warm, it starts stringing. So I definitely prefer thicker barrels that are free floated, give you phenomenal harmonics, and are tough. So they're very rigid, they deal with heat well, and they're set up to perform in whatever elements I happen to be in. That's what's important to me. My barrel recommendations, I just jotted this down quick, it's in no particular order. This is for a rifle build, like I'm starting with receivers, I'm putting in the barrel myself. Centurion, Criterion, Daniel Defense, Noveske, Geisley, and someone told me Black River Tactical is the truth. I'm gonna look into that. That's not to be confused with Bear Creek trash. It's Black River Tactical. But that's the pool of manufacturers that I would pull from. I'm sure someone's gonna put in something about some other company that I don't have any experience with. I can't comment on that. I left Ballistic Advantage out because only their Hansen series is any good. So regular Ballistic Advantage barrels or Aero Precision barrels, other than a 16-inch, no go. Ballistic Advantage makes great Hansen barrels if you want a QPQ barrel. So you do that cost-benefit analysis. As far as stainless steel barrels, good luck. I have no idea about stainless steel barrels. I know Wilson Combat, Compass Lake Engineering, just to name a few, but whoever's gonna make you a good 416R barrel. So if you're out there and you're just a bench rest shooter, or you wanna make the best Mark 12 a Mark 12 can be, then find you a good stainless barrel. I also prefer a solid exterior finish that isn't shiny. And stainless goes against that. I know you can paint it, and if you shoot it off or scrape it, you can repaint it, but that's also adding a medium to the barrel that's gonna slightly impact your harmonics, especially since, I don't know about you, I'm not a cyborg or some sort of robot that can perfectly spray every single time. So the coating of paint is not gonna be super consistent. Is it enough to mess up your shooting? Almost certainly not, but it is some sort of harmonic impact because you're adding a medium to the exterior coating, which is gonna affect how the barrel vibrates, especially if you get heavy-handed with the paint. But again, is the impact and degradation of accuracy and harmonics gonna translate downrange to paper targets or whatever you happen to be shooting at? I don't know. There's gonna be people that come for me in the comments either way. And I'm one of those guys, like my HK MR556, shoots so well, I was gonna suppress it. I'm not touching it because it shoots perfectly. My URGI shoots well, suppressed or unsuppressed, so I'm not worried about it. But certain guns, I get kind of superstitious because they're so accurate, I don't wanna change anything. But I do have some rifles where, they're pretty good, that they produce, you know, MOA or better. I can spray this gun, but with my HK MR556, the repeatability is through the roof. If I'm having my worst day shooting ever, I bring out the MR556 and I can clean it up immediately. Fix those stats. So definitely things to consider. But before you start a build, you should start with what you want to do with it. For me, it's simple. It's either a fighting rifle or a precision fighting rifle. You should assess what your standards are, what performance characteristics you need, what your area is going to throw at that particular rifle with weather and conditions, and how hard you're going to shoot it. Are you going to be putting high volumes of fire through it? Are you going to be bench rest shooting it? Is it going to be 250 rounds a year tops? It's up to you, right? So, or is it your load development gun? I don't know, right? You might have different things that you do that I don't do. But for me, being a return to monkey caveman, I'm focused on doing Minuteman things or military stuff or dumb shit that I've built up in my head that I can do that I really can't do, right? All those fantasy scenarios. Or am I gonna set up and just lay down some precision fire? That's it, for those same circumstances. Those are the two things that I'm looking at. And if you're wired like me, then that's my recommendation to you, is to follow what I've done. These cats are going to be the end of me. It's also important to look at how hard you're going to shoot it. Do not buy a Mark 12 or an HK MR556, mag dump into trash constantly, and then bitch to me about how the barrel didn't last, right? A stainless barrel or an unlined barrel is not meant to shoot 500 rounds in a sitting or be attached to some sort of bump fire stock or force reset trigger or something like that. Get the barrel that's going to fit the requirements that you have for it. Don't force your requirements on a barrel that's not going to do it. Like, don't buy a PSA and expect a precision build. It's not going to happen.
Emotional, damn it!
Hopefully this answered a bunch of questions. I know it was an incredibly long and boring video. I know it's going to satisfy some engineers or some nerds, and I'm sure the engineers are going to be madder at me because they know this stuff and I said stuff improperly probably, but I researched this a little bit on Google, so that's where I got my information from. If this isn't up your alley or you don't give a shit, then this video probably wasn't for you and I wasted your day. So hopefully the information was good to go and it gives you insight into how I select barrels and what I look for. As always, thanks for watching. Take care out there.